Well, right after one of Mike's stories, we wanted to take a moment to recognize the special recognition he received today from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln.
Yeah, take a look at this. Here's Mike posing in a photo with one of the broadcasting professors at UNL. Our First Alert 6 Chief Investigator honored with this, a Friend of the College Award from the Nebraska College of Journalism and Mass Communications.
Yeah, every week Mike mentors the next generation of strong and smart journalists as students put on their newscast Nebraska Nightly. Mike walks them through the real-world challenges, the best practices to telling good stories with a solid presentation.
Mike has worked with hundreds of students in Lincoln for the last 5 years. So big congratulations, Mike. You have made quite the impact.
Yeah, proud to call you a friend and a colleague. In fact, the person talking in our ear producing this newscast right now, a graduate of Sam of Nebraska Nightly.
That's right.
Now he's telling us to wrap up because we're off time. Well, tributes are pouring in tonight for one of the most recognizable names in media.
Coming up next on First Alert 6, we look at the impact